It's Thursday, July 20th, 2017. I'm your host, Sarah Mannel. We have a great show in store for you today. First up, we're going to chat with Town Manager Mark Els. He's going to talk to us about the recent settlement with Barnstable County, and also he's going to tell us a little bit more about an upcoming vote that could affect the town's budget. Then we're going to check in with Town Councilor Phil Wallace. All of that on this episode of Barnstable Today. But first, let's go ahead and get a look at today's top headlines. Town Council will consider fixing $1.8 million, or spending rather, $1.8 million to repair 3 private roads in Osterville. The roads under consideration for repair include Beach Plum Hill Road, Smoke Valley Road, Ice Valley Road, and Fox Island Road. The council will also consider spending $163,000 in community preservation funds to improve the Centerville Recreation Building. Town Council meets Thursday at 7 in the Town Hall hearing room. That meeting will air live right here on Channel 18. Well, you can find out what it's really like to be a police officer in the town of Barnstable during the next Citizens Police Academy. The Citizens Police Academy allows residents to learn more about the history of the department's narcotics unit, and they can even participate in a ride-along. The 13-week program is taught by various members of the Barnstable Police Department. To apply and to learn more, you can visit barnstablepolice.com. Barnstable Public Schools may soon hire a full-time attorney. The school committee voted to post the position and begin accepting resumes during its meeting this week. During the search, the school system will continue to utilize a private firm for any legal matters. The town of Barnstable will host a memorial ceremony in honor of the Korean War next week. The armistice that formally ended the Korean War was signed July 27th in 1953 at 10 a.m. That's when the town will hold its ceremony at 10 a.m. Thursday, July 27th, in honor of that significant moment in history. All are welcome to attend. The ceremony will be held at the Korean War Memorial at Veterans Beach. Well, up next is our conversation with Town Manager Mark Els. So, Mark, want to check in with you. I know, of course, the town of Barnstable and Barnstable County settled a lawsuit regarding some things that were found in the water from the training academy, the fire training academy at the county. What happens now? Where are we in the process?
Well, we settled at the end of June, and basically it's an agreement that lays out how the town will be reimbursed from the county for costs associated with contamination we found in the Mary Dunn well fields, and we've put in place filters on those 3 wells, and they've been functioning, and there's no detect of this contamination since we've done all that work. So, just to keep people, comfortable and confident that their water supply is, those issues are being addressed in the public water supply. But so what happens now? There are different conditions in this particular agreement that lay out when the reimbursement will occur. There's also reference to other opportunities, relationships that we might have with the county relevant to, for example, the county farm, and potentially looking to site future potential water supply wells there. I know it was pointed out that there may have been activities out there relevant to a shooting range at some point, which we were well aware of. You certainly wouldn't put a water supply under anything or down gradient of anything that may be of concern or a risk. So, but until you look at the site, evaluate it, understand what's going on or has gone on the site historically, you keep it. You keep it as a viable site to consider. I know that. So we took the agreement. The agreement went to Mark Milne. Mark Milne reached out to their finance person, and we've begun processing the reimbursement of past operating expenses. They're on a schedule for debt service payments to us over the life of those activities. At the same time, we signed into an agreement relevant to doing further investigation on the county farm parcel. So basically, it's going exactly as agreed to. That's a good thing. The other thing that we will be doing is, as we incur future operating expenses, we need to be invoicing the county for those, because it costs well, it probably costs about a little under $125,000 a year to run those filters. And then when we replace the media, it costs about $35,000 per filter. So we came up with an agreement to be able to do that, and I expect moving forward in the future that, you know, we will do everything to when a challenge like this does arise, to sit down with the county and work through it, rather than, you know, go into this, legal process.
I think that was what was so interesting to me, looking at the process, how quickly it was settled. I mean, when you talk about typical legal issues with parties like this, it really can take a really long time. It can be very drawn out. It seems to me like this was a true negotiation, and the county and the town of Barnstable will still move forward with a really positive working relationship.
Absolutely, and I think we both recognize the priority of this. We recognize that we serve the same public, the same, you know, customer, and it was in both our best interest to resolve this quickly, because we're going to have lots of other issues. We have to be able to sit down at the table and work these things out, hopefully outside of some third party, like a court system, hopefully, and I'm confident we will. We have a good working relationship, and I expect that will continue. So.
I want to touch base on another issue. I know this is coming up quicker than we think. Right now we're all stuck in summer, but this fall we will have a vote on an override related to the Cape Regional Tech High School. There's a proposal to build a new building. All of the towns that send kids to the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School would be paying into that new building. This would greatly affect the town of Barnstable's budget. So one thing the town council has done is set up a vote beforehand to maybe pass an override if that were to go through. Talk to me about this process and where we are, and will we hear from Superintendent Bob Sanborn again?
Yes, we will. That's a very good question. Bob's going to get some updated numbers on this project. I believe he said on the 25th of this month. Council is this Thursday on the 20th. Initially, we were thinking maybe he would come in for this meeting, but without updated numbers, it's better for our August meeting, I believe. So you'll see him in August. He'll share that information with everybody. Yes, we do have various votes coming up, two of them. And the first one, the town council, in reviewing this vote, that the vote for the Cape Tech project to move forward, and within that vote, approving or not approving, is the identification of the cost of the project. But within that vote, and that's an August vote, all the communities, same day from noon to 8. I believe it's October 24th, but you may want to confirm that. Same day, 12 to 8, not community by community. The district votes it up or votes it down. That doesn't include how it's paid for. It does include the scope and the cost of the project. So a yes vote means that now each community needs to figure out how they pay for this. A no vote means it doesn't move forward. So then when you look at Barnstable and what it will pay on the project, right now, as estimated, I think it's over $140 million project, and Barnstable's share of that, given the number of students we have, I believe they're borrowing over 30 years. I believe that they're eligible for some reimbursement from the state. I think all of that is still accurate. We were looking at a $1.8 million per year for 30 years increase. That's just the capital side. Then there's an operating side. So if we have a bigger facility, well, we don't know the numbers relevant to what will be the change to operating costs. Historically, the tech has been good in keeping within, the same sort of increases that we see. But this is a new facility, and we don't know the operating costs yet. But Bob Sanborn's been, pretty, he's been trying to assure everybody that you won't see larger increases. But again, we still don't know. And we don't know what will happen with student body. Those numbers aren't fixed. Those numbers relate to how many of our kids, go to that school. And so the vote in September will be asking our residents, do you want to do a debt exclusion, Prop 2.5 override to fund this project? And the voters will make their decision on that. Now,
then they can go armed with that knowledge of how the funding will be done when they go to the vote in October for the high school, whether or not they want to vote for that project.
I think our leadership saw that it puts us in an odd situation if, people vote yes for a project without knowing the funding source specifically. I mean, generally they do. Each of the towns is going to pay for it, but how do they pay for it? What do we change in our operating budget to accommodate $1.8 million? I mean, we spend all this time on 1, 2, 5, 10-year projections until, maybe 18 months ago, this wasn't on the radar. We don't know if it's going to, move forward or not. And so it's very difficult to say how that will come out of the budget. And if it's a yes vote on the project, it's not a matter of, at that point, you can't say no. It comes part of our fixed costs because that's how we reimburse. And then basically it's $1.8 million off the top of our budget, and therefore we need to manage that within the budget. It'll impact what we do, no question.
Definitely. Well, thank you for giving us the update on everything from the county lawsuit to this vote coming up on Cape Cod Regional Technical High School. We really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
Our guest today, Town Manager Mark Ellis. Now we're going to check in with Town Councilor Phil Wallace. So Phil, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Very excited to chat with you about your work on the Town Council. First, you're a member of the TIF committee. This is Tax Increment Funding Committee. Really, tell me what this committee is designed to do.
The committee itself is designed to incentivize businesses to come to the town of Barnstable, and if they are in the town of Barnstable, to grow their businesses here and to create an initiative for new construction and new growth dollars in our town. And that's what it's set for. Most TIFs are a tax incentive that are granted to businesses usually 15 to 20 years out. And so far the ones that we've looked at that I've been a part of have been between $23,000 and $34,000 a year in incentives for those businesses.
And the goal, I think, is if we incentivize them, give them a little bit of a tax break to grow or to bring their business here to Barnstable, that really does help us long term when we look at the tax income for the town of Barnstable.
Certainly it grows the value of the town, but also with good paying year-round jobs, we become less sensitive to market trends, economic market trends, and I think that's important for our town.
Yeah, so what kinds of projects go before the TIF committee?
For instance, the Cape Cod 5-cent Savings Bank is looking at growing their business onto the Route 132 corridor, specifically where the old Ethan Allen building was. And we're looking at a construction project close to $48 million, and we'd be looking to help them out and help them get started with that construction.
Wonderful. So, and like you mentioned, jobs, it's an important part of a stable year-round economy. So very important that these projects get moved forward.
Yeah, that particular business would bring 250 people to work in this town. However, currently they're located outside, but still on the Cape. So I think that the number of people relocating to our town would be small. And however, just the economic stimulus from the construction is terrific, the added value to the town. And whatever those 250 people do while they're here in the town is also beneficial to us.
Yeah, isn't that true? They're going to be eating lunch, hopefully, maybe taking advantage of some shopping while they're here in Hyannis after work. Who knows?
Yeah, and there's little hotels and larger hotels in close proximity, they'll probably realize an increase in income from
Wonderful, wonderful. Love to hear that. I know you also sit on the, or actually, I'm sorry, you are the chair of the Asset Management Advisory Committee. What is the Asset Management Advisory Committee?
This committee was originally set up by our previous town council president, Jessica Rapp-Grassetti, and what it is designated duty is to take the more than 1,000 parcels and properties that the town owns and parson them up, if you will, into a way where we can find the ones that we can sell, put back on the tax rolls, those that we want to keep and use for beneficial purposes for the town, and those that we would like to either give away or sell at a very small price. A lot of these properties are less than 1/10 of an acre. They are usually, in most cases, landlocked by other properties. We would offer these small parcels to those abutters, and hopefully somebody would take them and put them back on the tax rolls. And there are 16 really nice properties that we're looking at. We have designated the easiest, the most unencumbered properties that we have, and we're going to make a recommendation to the town council that we put those out for bid. However, we haven't decided as of today what the vehicle will be for selling those properties. And in our next meeting, which I believe is the third Thursday in August, we will determine what that vehicle will be, whether it'll be a closed bid, open bid, auction, or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm.
Interesting process. The goal there, I'm assuming, to maybe reduce the amount of property we have to care for and maybe bring in some money for those properties as well.
Exactly. We have more than 80 properties that have been foreclosed on, and there's 365 that are in foreclosure. If the committee made a recommendation, for instance, we could sell those that are in foreclosure to a private company. The value of those is about $5.5 million to the town. So we're considering that as well.
Interesting, very interesting process. How long do you think that process will take? I know you said timeline-wise, you're looking at deciding how to sell them in August. What's the timeline look like for maybe selling those properties?
Well, it could take 2 to 3 years to get through the whole process, as this won't happen quickly. Initially, the unencumbered ones will happen fairly quickly. The ones that, depending on how the town acquired the property, may have some baggage, so we'll have to work through those, and that will take quite a while. It's quite a large process. We have designated each of the properties now and prioritized them. And as a committee, we've gotten through to that point. And so the next thing is to figure out what the vehicle is to move that forward.
Interesting. What an interesting process. I know you're also the liaison to the Shellfish Committee. What issues are really happening, really big, taking up some of the Shellfish Committee's time?
The Shellfish Committee, there's a lot going on there. Certainly, they look at and make a recommendation as to whether different piers, docks, and things like that projects should move forward. However, right now they'd like to see additional 14 new grants in Barnstable Harbor come to fruition. We've been working on that for some time. And in the northern part of North Bay, where Prince Cove comes in, there's a high level of nitrogen loading there, and we're looking at these incubator nurseries for shellfish as a non-traditional method for mitigating the nitrogen loading that's severe there. And hopefully we'll get that done. We'll have 6 of those incubator nurseries up and running soon.
Wow. Now, will there be testing once those go in to see how effective that is? I'm sure that must be a time-consuming process. I'm sure right away they wouldn't have any information, but looking forward, do we think we're going to test and see if they're making an impact?
Well, in that part of North Bay where the nurseries will be placed, they do know how much nitrogen can be extracted given the number of oysters that are planted there. And it is significant, but it's not a panacea for everything. Still, we'll have to go with other non-traditional methods and perhaps traditional methods, such as sewering, very expensive and part of the 208 plan as we move that forward. But the Shellfish Committee is working on doing their part to mitigate the nitrogen there. So
yes,
that's a good thing.
I love seeing that. Nature's a great way to take care of it, right?
It's a win-win situation. I mean, if you look at it, it doesn't cost a lot. Private business makes money, and at the end of the day, what's wrong with more food?
Right, exactly.
It's really a good thing.
Exactly, and our region is so known for that too. Well, thank you for joining me today, telling me about all the great work you're doing on the council. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
And look forward to chatting with you again in the near future.
I'm looking forward as well. Thanks a lot.
My guest today, of course, Precinct 11 Town Councilor Phil Wallace. Now let's find out what's happening around town in today's community calendar. Well, your Friday afternoons are about to get a little more exciting with some live music, an outdoor beer garden, and a great selection of Cape Cod's best farmers, makers, and crafters. Cape Cod Beer hosts a farmers market meets happy hour every Friday from 3 to 6. That's going to happen through Labor Day weekend. For more information and a complete list of participating vendors, you can go to the Cape Cod Beer website under the events calendar. Well, grab your beach chair and your family and head down to Azleton Park on Hyannis Harbor for a free summer concert this Saturday night. The concert will feature Hot Soup, a Cape Cod classic rock band. The band will play hits that span the decades. The concert goes from 4 to 7 this Saturday. Town Council meets tonight at 7 in the Town Hall hearing room, and again, that meeting will air live right here on Channel 18. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to be back tomorrow with another great show for you. On tomorrow's show, we will chat with Recreation Director Patty Machado. She's going to tell us about how lifeguards stay up to date with their training. We're going to hear from Animal Control Officer Charlie Lewis about how to keep your pet safe during the very hot summer season. And we're going to visit the Maritime Museum to learn more about how they are bringing back their pirate ball. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannell.